What's up, everybody? And welcome to The Flex. Once again, it's your boy Craig, here for some more fantasy football updates. And in this week, I really want to get into a little bit more into the drafting. And this time, give you just some pertinent information. We are at the point where drafting has become, we're here. It's time. If you haven't already drafted, you're probably drafting this weekend or the following weekend. These are the last 2 weekends for you. This is the time frame in which I recommend drafting. And so if you've waited to this point, congratulations, you've made a good decision. And now it's time for my final tips on how to win your draft so that your team is as strong as possible. And the first thing I have to just strongly insist on is how important the running back position is when it comes to the draft, and making sure that you get your running backs early. My number one recommendation is that I believe that your first round should be all running backs. I believe picks 1 through 10 this year should be running backs. I can't even be more clear about that. And just to show you an example of what I think should happen in the first round is I like Alvin Kamara number 1 overall. If Ezekiel Elliott signs, I would switch that, and I would put Ezekiel Elliott at number 1 overall. But right now, he hasn't signed yet. We don't know what's going to happen. It's too much of a risk to take him number 1 overall and end up with a Le'Veon Bell situation like a lot of people did last year. So then I'm going to go on and say Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey. And at this point, Ezekiel Elliott ain't going to make it past 5 picks. And if he does, I would be really surprised. I still think he's worth a first-round draft pick, especially if you can get him after the 5th pick. That's just crazy. You got to take him. But I go Ezekiel Elliott, number 4. David Johnson, number 5. Le'Veon Bell, number 6. And I to be honest with you, I think Le'Veon Bell should actually be after Barkley. But with the switch of teams, you don't really know what's going to happen. He's not playing in the preseason, so you're not even going to get any type of, hint at how well he's going to play, but he's still worthy of the first round pick. James Conner, Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, and then right after that, Todd Gurley. And yes, Todd Gurley is a high-risk first-round pick, but at the end of the day, it's still Todd Gurley, and I have a feeling that if it was so bad that he isn't going to be ready and that he's going to get hurt right away, or that there's a high probability of him getting hurt right away, I think that they would just let it on, I think they would let on to it, and they would say that, it's going to be a few weeks, he's not going to start week 1, whatever the case may be. But Todd Gurley himself is saying that this is not even one of his worst ailments that he's dealt with, even in his college years. So I'm a little bit optimistic about Todd Gurley, but I am also giving him the 10th pick. And then I say, all right, now you've got your high-level running backs in the first round. Now let's go and attack these wide receivers. Hopkins, then Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Odell Beckham, Juju Smith, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, and Antonio Brown. So now everybody's got a high-level running back and a high-level wide receiver, and it fares pretty well. The people who got the best of the top 10 running backs got the worst of the top 10 wide receivers, and now everybody has a really solid beginning to their draft. And then now it's going to fluctuate in the 3rd round. This is where you can kind of decide what you think is important. To me, having that second running back is paramount. You know what I'm saying? You really want to get the likes of Cook, take a gamble on Melvin Gordon, who is technically a top 5, maybe top 6 running back. If you can get him in the 3rd round, which a lot of people right now, he's fallen to the 3rd round, that's an excellent pickup. Leonard Fournette, Devontae Freeman, which is a high-risk pick, and as well as Damian Williams. Those guys kind of scare me. But then, you got wide receivers like Amari Cooper, tight ends like Kittle and Kelsey and Ertz, and another wide receiver like Adam Thielen in the 3rd round. These guys you're going to kind of mix around. But I can't stress enough that in the first round you need to grab your running back, because if you do not get one of the top 10 running backs, I think that's really going to hurt your season. Wide receivers are full. They were full of wide receivers. I was just talking about this the other day. And this is why I stress the idea of grabbing your running backs. There's 32 teams in the NFL, and maybe 20 of them have a week-to-week, high-level performing running back. Every team has at least one number one wide receiver. That means in a 10-team league, you have the possibility of getting three number one wide receivers from one from each team. Everybody has an opportunity to have three level one wide receivers. So, but only 10 people can get maybe two, but what about the guys who draft 3 rounds in a row and they're getting them top tier running backs? It's too much of a risk, in my opinion, to skip out on a running back in the first round. I mean, even if you're getting DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, or Michael Thomas, you're making a mistake. The worst case scenario is you end up with Chubb on your team. Chubb is even though I'm putting Chubb above Gurley is actually in the top of the pack. We're picking him last because of his issue, his arthritis in his knee. But if you remember, Todd Gurley was number 1 overall pick last year, and he was the number 1 running back last year. He only dropped so low because of the injury report. Who knows, by the time the season starts, he could be completely off it, and they say he's 100%, and now you've gotten the number 1 overall pick at number 10. What? How is that not the best possible move you can make? So, you should definitely, in your draft, go for the running back first. You can go for a running back in the second round, which is what I plan on doing, because I know for a fact that people are going to grab wide receivers in the first round. So my plan, and people are going to grab Patrick Mahomes in the first round. Guys like that they're, banking on them just being the highlight reel of their team. I want 2 solid running backs right away. And then I'll roll the dice on my wide receivers, with guys like Amari Cooper, Antonio Brown, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. I'm going to take a risk on those guys rather than, not taking a chance on a high-level running back. Another thing I want to talk about is the flex position and how important that is to your season. Flex position is just your guys on the bench. You're rotating through your guys on the bench that you can't put them in the starting wide receiver or running back position because you got better guys there. You got to throw a guy in the flex. I want to just talk about a few guys that I really like that I've been picking up and putting in the flex position. Number 1 overall, in my opinion, is going to be Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is a number 1 wide receiver right now because of the injury in A.J. Green, but he's being drafted really late. You're being able to get him with your 5th, maybe even 6th pick if you're lucky. And he ends up going into your flex. If you can get Tyler Boyd into your flex position, you're winning your draft right now because he is the number 1 wide receiver in Cincinnati. That's hands down. A.J. Green isn't even going to start the season. A.J. Green's getting drafted in the 9th and 10th round because of his injury. What does that tell you? Tyler Boyd is the man. Why is Tyler Boyd not jumping higher up? I'm not really sure. I don't know what's going on there, but Tyler Boyd is a must-have on your team. Don't draft him too early, but he's a must-have on your team because he is actually the number 1. Chris Godwin for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really wasn't high on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year, but reports have Jameis Winston climbing the ladder as quality goes. He's showing Bruce Arians something, and with a coach like that, you got to believe that he is going to develop even to be maybe close to what they hoped that he would be when he was drafted over Marcus Mariota during his draft class. So I'm really liking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the days progress. My only problem with Tampa Bay is they really don't have a run game. Peyton Barber is considered to be that number 1 guy, and then you have Royce Jones or whatever, Ray Jones, whatever his name is, Ronald Jones. You have Ronald Jones, who didn't really develop into anything last year, showing a little bit of flashes, but then was stale last week. So their run game is extremely suspect. I can't understand why they haven't gone after the likes of, say, like Jay Ajayi to kind of bolster that run game up a little bit. I don't know what they're doing here. I don't know what the plan is, but it's kind of hard to get the passing game going if you don't have a solid run game. And in my opinion, they have the weakest run game in the NFL right now. Sony Michel has dropped down. His ADP has gotten low, which is making him an excellent flex option. I do not believe he is running back 2 quality. I do believe that he is only good for the flex and for backup. Damian Harris has been looking really good. And then you got James White. This is going to be, Patriots always do running back by committee. It's been a long time since we've had a standout number 1 running back. So I don't expect that to change. Tariq Cohen, I feel like Tariq Cohen's value has dropped. I feel like he's being able to be grabbed at a really good ADP, and he's an excellent flex position. Corey Davis has dropped a little bit, giving him excellent flex appeal. I think similar to Tyler Boyd, he's the number 1 guy on that team. Delaney Walker is back and looking good and looking healthy, so I think that's going to help bolster Corey Davis from being getting double coverage. Cooper Kupp is back, and I think that really bodes well for the Rams, but also gives him really good flex appeal, especially with his low ADP coming off a season-ending injury. People don't want to take a chance on him, so now you have someone like that you can throw into the flex. And finally, A.J. Green. I said Tyler Boyd, but now I'm also going to say A.J. Green, because if you get Tyler Boyd, you're probably not going to grab A.J. Green. And with A.J. Green dropping, you're not going to use him as your number 1. You're not going to use him as your number 2. You're going to throw him in that flex position. You're getting him in the 9th and 10th round. It's an easy bet to take. If he doesn't work out, yeah, you wasted a 9th or a 10th round pick, but it's AJ Green. He's worth wasting the pick on, especially this low, where he was originally being drafted in the 2nd and 3rd round. That's a long ways to drop to be able to wait 2, 3, 4, even 5 weeks to play him. I'm going to snatch him up for that price, and I'm going to ride it out. I'm going to put him in my injury reserve slot or let him ride the bench if I don't have one of those. But A.J. Green, it's A.J. Green. And then at the end of the day, if he works out and he's playing, he's putting up numbers, now you got a bargaining chip. You got a player that you can trade for something that you may need more. Maybe you need a tight end. Someone's got 2 tight ends and you got A.J. Green. You could throw him their way because you don't really care if you have him or not. So, and with that being said, some players that are worth grabbing, some risky players that you can grab like in the late rounds, 12, 13, 14, that are good bargaining chips, guys you can hold on to, let develop, and then trade them away for pieces you need. N'Keal Harry, he has a hamstring injury. They're gonna take their time building him up, so that way, once he's ready to play, they can get him at full health, 100%, and he can go out there and he can fight for those passes, and he looks like he can really develop with Tom Brady. So I like N'Keal Harry a lot. I think he's a good bargaining chip to hold on to. Carlos Hyde. I don't really believe in Damian Williams this year. I don't think he's that guy. I think he's gonna show the reason why he's been a backup. He's been a backup for a long time in the NFL. Why all of a sudden do we believe that he's going to be a number 2 running back? A number 2 running back is where he's being drafted at. I really like Carlos Hyde. I know he had a bad fumble in preseason, but it's preseason. Things happen. Not every player is perfect in preseason, and Carlos Hyde fell into that. So I think that his ADP drops. You get him for a really, really cheap discount. You let him develop, and then when he's putting up 15 to 20 points a week and behind that nice offensive line, you have a good trading piece. LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy is still shady. He is playing, he's playing for the Bills. He's injury prone, but if he starts putting together some work, starts getting his touches, and he wins that starting position all over again, once again, you have a great trading piece for yourself. You got him in the late rounds. Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is going in the late rounds, even though Melvin Gordon is still not signed. We still don't know what's going on in that situation. I honestly believe Melvin Gordon plays. I believe Melvin Gordon plays week 1. I think that they come to some sort of an agreement, maybe a 2-year deal with incentives to get him to sign, but to also make sure that he performs so that way he can get an extension. And maybe they say, hey, we'll give you 2 years with incentives, and if you perform in year 1, we'll give you that extension, 2 more years, this much money guaranteed, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. But I think Gordon plays. But Austin Eckler is a guy you can draft, and then, say Gordon misses out week 1, boom, you trade him away. Say, hey, you need this running back right now. Let me get that wide receiver. Let me get that tight end, or give me that extra defense that you have. Boom. Devin Funchess, a guy I really like. I think a guy who's being slept on. I think people forget how good he was when he was in Carolina and Kelvin Benjamin was hot. When Kelvin Benjamin was in Carolina and he was hot, Devin Funchess took advantage of the double coverage that was going Kelvin Benjamin's way. It wasn't until he became the number 1 option that his production fell because he couldn't handle the double coverage. Now he's not going to get that. He's got T.Y. Hilton. He's got Paris Campbell. And they got Eric Ebron. No one can double cover Funchess anymore, so he's going to get his touches. He's going to be a big value. You snatch him up on your team, and you use him for a trading block later on into the season. I also like Golden Tate. Golden Tate's going to be suspended 4 games. Right now he's in concussion protocol. He's dropping all the way down to the end of the draft, which spells value. He is a good wide receiver. He is going to become the number 2 guy on the Giants. So maybe he does do well, and then you can say, hey, listen, I'll throw you Golden Tate and this other guy. You give me this. You give me that wide receiver I want. My team's better. Your team's better. It all works out in the end. Michael Gallup, another guy that can develop this season. Kenny Stills and Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders had his first grab this week, and it was a really good one for about 20 yards. So I think Emmanuel Sanders is going to get back into the fold. I think he's going to win that number 1 job in Denver. And I think he's a great trading piece to hold on to and to draft in the late rounds. Another situation I want to talk about is where to draft Josh Gordon. Now, let's be smart, okay? Let's be smart when it comes to Josh Gordon. Let's evaluate this situation. Is Josh Gordon an incredible wide receiver? Yes. When Josh Gordon was healthy and he was playing for one of the worst teams in the NFL, was he the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL? Yes. Is he still incredibly talented? Is he still in football shape? And is he going to be ready to go on the New England Patriots? Yes. Does he have number 1 wide receiver quality? Yes. Is he worth drafting in single-digit rounds? No. 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 You don't even know how many weeks you're going to have Josh Gordon for. I want to give this guy the benefit of the doubt that he realizes, okay, I've been given a lot of chances. The Patriots put a babysitter on me, and I still screwed it up. But now they're saying, we understand that this is a real problem for you. We want to give you a chance one more time to try to make it. You're good for the NFL. Helping you out makes us look good. The Patriots need you this year. We're going to let them take advantage of the situation, get you the help you need, put you on the field, make sure that you're being watched over. They're going to do all these things for you. So now he's saying, all right, I'm hoping what's going to happen is he's going to be like, all these chances that are being given to me, this is the time for me. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to play with the Patriots. I'm going to try to earn that Super Bowl ring, and I'm going to stay sober. That's what we hope is going to happen. 16 weeks of incredible Josh Gordon football. But let's be realistic. That's never, ever happened. He has never made it through a season without getting busted. The man has a real problem, and I feel bad for him. I understand that addiction is real, and he's been going through it since high school. This is 10 years of 10 plus years of having depression and using alcohol and using drugs and smoking weed, all that stuff. It's been a coping mechanism, and you can't, you struggle with that. So, okay, you benefit of the doubt. We understand that. But what makes you believe that he's going to make it to 16 games? What if he makes it 5 games and you waste a single-digit round on him? What? That is the craziest thing I've heard of. Like, why are you draft 10th round? 10th round or later is the only time it's okay to draft Josh Gordon. Now, if Josh Gordon plays 16 games and he's a top 20 wide receiver, you have won the lottery. If he doesn't and he sucks or he is out in 5 to 10 weeks, okay, it's a 10th, 11th, 12th round pick. Who cares? But if you're drafting him in the 7th, 8th, 9th round, like, yeah, I think that's foolish. If he ends up being a top 20, yeah, you've made a great decision and you got him at a discount. But that's too high of a risk. 10th round or later is the only place that it makes sense to draft Josh Gordon. That's the only thing that makes sense. So you take that and you do what you will with it, but I can't imagine drafting him earlier than that. All right, so now I want to talk about some guys that are questionable players that, not questionable necessarily because of injury, but also because of injury, but questionable because you just don't know what's going to happen with these guys. So there's kind of like a high risk, high reward situation. Number 1 on that list is Todd Gurley. He has the arthritis in his knee. You're going to definitely be getting him at the end of either at the end of the first or somewhere in the second. But that's high if he ends up, not playing or getting hurt early, whatever the case may be. There's a high risk, high reward situation here. I like this situation. I think that I would draft Todd Gurley either at the end of the first or beginning of the second, anytime. And anytime after the first, I'm all in on Todd Gurley. I think in the same way with Melvin Gordon, I am all in on these two guys. I think that they're going to play. Same thing with Ezekiel Elliott. I wouldn't draft Ezekiel Elliott top 5, but if after top 5, I'm all in on him. I think he's going to play. I don't think these guys have the same leg to stand on that Le'Veon Bell did. I don't think these guys can afford to just take a whole year off. So we'll see what happens with the situation, but I don't know. Another guy I'm kind of leaning on is Rashad Penny. He's getting a lot of hype. They say he's looking good. You can get him really late in the rounds. It's not as high of a risk, but it does have if it pans out, it's high reward. Low risk, high reward. AJ Green, he's injury prone. We don't know how long he's going to play. We don't know how long it's going to be till he plays, but the fact that you can get him after the 9th round is definitely promising. Josh Gordon, once again, high risk because you don't know how long he's going to play. But if you can wait until them double-digit rounds to grab him, I think he's worth the risk and he can have high reward. Valdez Scantling, wide receiver for Green Bay, has a lot of promise, has been working out with Randy Moss, and has been getting praises all day. Double coverage on Devontae Adams. If he's number 2, that's looking really good. Lamar Jackson, I feel like Lamar Jackson is being able to be drafted really low this year. You'd be able to get him into like the 12th and 13th round. I think that's a low risk, but with the potential for high reward if they can get that passing game going. And if he runs as much as I think he's going to, he's definitely gonna rack up the points. To me, a high risk no matter where you draft him, but possible high reward is Jameis Winston. He's been getting a lot of praises. He's down on his weight. He's becoming more mobile. I saw a lot of good things from him, making crisp passes in the preseason. So I think that Jameis Winston could be a low risk, high reward player if you're looking for a second quarterback and you're not really liking the options you have. Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore from the Carolina Panthers. I like these two guys. I don't know if I'm in on them, but I think these guys have a good reward if you draft them as late as they're being able to be drafted. I think they also have really good trade value if they perform to the level that they've been given hype about. I mean, these are the number 1 and number 2 guys in Carolina, right over Chris Hogan. So I think that if they pan out, they're good trade. They have good trade value. And then Austin Eckler obviously is a high risk, high reward. Even though you can draft him pretty late, there's a chance that Melvin Gordon starts and his value drops to pretty much nothing. Some running backs that I think are, guys that are scary to draft but have potential to turn it around. Kerryon Johnson, he's coming off of an injury, has been looking really good. The hype around him is really live right now. So I kind of want to take it. I kind of want to take a risk on him. Dalvin Cook, I took a risk on him last year and it did not pan out at all. So I don't want to take that risk this year. But the word around the league is that he's looking really good and that he's a complete running back, a 3-down back who can get it all done. There's a lot of hype around Derrick Henry. I don't know if I believe it, and I don't know if I'd be willing to risk a draft pick on him at all, like literally at all. But if he can do what he did at the end of the season, you could be looking at a smash mouth running back who's getting you touchdowns at the goal line. I already mentioned Rashad Penny. I think that there's a possibility he can steal the job from Chris Carson, because Chris Carson is a guy who gives you everything, but what his everything isn't necessarily that great. Mark Ingram, I think that there's a high risk, high reward situation here. I think that he is, he's going to lead this run game, and there's a lot of potential for him here. I just don't know how it's going to work out. Aaron Jones is a guy I'm afraid to draft. I know he's injury prone, but he is the number one back, and when he is putting in work, the boy puts in work, and I like him a lot in that category. Finally is Tevin Coleman. I don't know how I feel about 49ers run game as it comes to fantasy football. I like it as a running back by committee for their team. They just have running backs. They can just keep rotating these guys and keep them healthy all year. But Tevin Campbell is definitely going to be the clear number one in this situation. So this is my advice for you when you're drafting, but first and foremost, running back. It is the most important thing that you get running backs early, and you do not leave the first round without a running back. With that being said, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. That's Jim Bag Entertainment at YouTube. Check out our Instagram. That's JimBag_ENT. Facebook, JimBagENT. Twitter is JimENT. And until next week, have a good night.